Welcome to today's Crosspoint Devotion. Today I want to talk about your relationships. It is very important for us as a believer in Jesus Christ to make sure that we surround ourselves with people in our relationships who also love Jesus in the same way that we love Him. One of the key phrases that I keep running into as I read through the Old Testament is it says that God's people were wholeheartedly devoted to Him. Now that's an important phrase because it lets us know that there was nothing in their heart that they were desiring other than God. But then occasionally you'll find that a person who loved God wholeheartedly begins to have a friendship or a relationship with someone who's not wholeheartedly devoted to the Lord like they are. And do you know what happens in every single instance? The person who is wholeheartedly devoted to the Lord in the beginning slowly begins to drift into the same direction as the other person, and they begin to lose their wholehearted devotion to the Lord. This happened to Solomon, the king of Israel. There are a lot of great things that we can say about Solomon and his life and in his kingship over Israel, but one of the most detrimental things that ever happened to Solomon is he began to marry foreign wives, which God had forbidden. And as he married those foreign wives, they worshiped foreign gods, and now Solomon was put in a pickle. He had to decide, am I going to remain wholeheartedly devoted to the Lord and continue to serve Him, or will I consider perhaps worshiping some of the false gods of my wives? And over time, Solomon began to worship the false gods of his wives. Now let me read a few verses to kind of illustrate this. It's found in 1 Kings chapter 11. King Solomon loved many foreign women in addition to Pharaoh's daughter, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, and Hittite women from the nations about which the Lord had told them, you must not intermarry with them, and they must not intermarry with you, because they will turn your heart away to follow their gods. It happened just like God said to Solomon. Over time, it says in the same chapter 10 of 1 Kings, verse 9, the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. Solomon got into these relationships, marriage relationships, with these foreign women who worship foreign gods. And it wasn't long before he didn't just affirm that they could worship their gods while he continued to worship the Lord his God, but then he began to participate in the worship of their gods. And it goes so far in this particular chapter to say that at some point Solomon actually allowed his wives to build altars in the very city of Jerusalem where God's temple was residing. Over time, Solomon, because of his relationships, lost his wholehearted devotion to the Lord because of his wives. I just want to encourage you to be real careful in your relationships. We need to be people who love other people because we're followers of Jesus, and Jesus loved all people. He loved sinners, He loved saints. But Jesus also understood that He had to be very careful with whom He held Himself in close contact on a regular basis. He had to be real careful who He spent His time with. There were some boundaries sometimes that had to be set. And that might be the same advice that I would give to you and give to me today, is we want to love all people in the name of Jesus. We want to share the gospel with everyone so that those who don't know Jesus can come to know Him. But when it comes to really close relationships in our everyday lives, the people we hang with the most, we need to make sure that they're wholeheartedly devoted to the Lord, just like we are. Otherwise, we may be tempted like Solomon to divert our wholehearted devotion to something that is not worthy of Jesus Christ. So I hope that'll encourage you today to think about your relationships so you can stay on the path that Jesus has called us to follow. Hope that'll encourage you today. Have a great one.